to break the spirit of the population. Hundreds and thousands of Hindu women were forced to marry. There are Aurangzeb streets, Tipu Sultan, rapists, people who tried to commit genocide, their names should not be on our towns and streets.
1,000 temples were destroyed in Kashi. For almost 80 years, all of Kashi was in ruins.
A blind man can see what is Gyanvapi, Braille. You can see these are Hindu icons. That's why I said Hindus are mukha pranis. Our voice is not loud.
People say 20,000 temples, 40,000 temples. Is it even feasible to reclaim all of this? Coming specifically to the Kashi Vishwanath temple and the case, Sadhguru. In the case of Ayodhya, I think people kept asking us, show us the evidence, where is the evidence, and so on. In this case, a lot of you who would have visited Kashi through Gate 4, when you go there, the first vision you have of the Gyanvapi Mosque, first of all, that is an oxymoron. A Sanskrit name, well of knowledge for a mosque is a little odd. The western walls, the ruins are all the remains of a 16th century grand temple that was built there. And despite that, as you mentioned, we've gone through the peaceful route. Cases have been going on for 200, 250 years in this case, unlike Ayodhya.
Probably we like to argue in the court.
They're two argumentative Indians that we are. And now we have dumped them. They kept asking, where is the evidence? Now we have dumped them with 800 pages of Archaeological Survey of India's report that just came out last month or so, which details every little bit. So how much evidence is sufficient for those opposing the temple to actually say, we will agree? Does Aurangzeb need to come out of his tomb and say, yes, I did demolish it, and that is only when they will accept this?
See, most of the temple demolitions that happened, they always had a historian with them. Because in their mind, they wanted to be remembered as people who demolished this temple and demolished or destroyed idolatry and established whatever they think is the highest form of religion. So they wanted to be remembered as those people who destroyed these temples. So the proof today doesn't mean anything because they themselves have written very proudly that I destroyed this temple. And for example, in Mathura, the man who is writing down says, this is the greatest building I've ever seen in my life. So elaborate, so magnificently done. This cannot be the work of a man's hand. There is a divine hand in this. But they proceed to demolish. And it's all they themselves have written, you can't say that they wrote lies. This is because people who wrote our textbooks screwed up our minds so badly that we don't have a voice to say this is not right. And unfortunately, our legal system, political system, and education systems, very key three aspects of this nation, were taken over by those people for first 50, 60 years. And because of that, our own minds are like this somewhere. I've taken some time to turn my mind upside down. Otherwise, my school, college mind, though I barely went there, still it had influence on me because somewhere there is a sense of, as I said, it's become aspirational to be like the invaders. There is also a sense of shame to be the victim. So we don't want to be identified with that. If possible, we would like to change the color of our skin, not me, but a whole lot of people. There are movies like this where people are changing the color of their skin. Of course, there are cosmetics to change the color of your skin because somewhere invaders have become aspirational, which is a terrible thing to happen to any people. But it's happened. Fortunately, there is a revival and suddenly there's an upsurge and there is political will and suddenly judiciary seems to have found its feet.
Finally.
So, let's forget all these things. If we just go by the constitution of the day, which itself has some aspects because nobody ever can write a perfect book about anything. It's okay because you're a book writer, I'm saying.
Completely agreed to that.
Nobody can ever write a perfect book. This is the dilemma of any book that you write. If you read it over 1,000 times, you will see still it's either this must go, that must come, that must go, this must come. Endlessly it will go on unless somebody else, an editor says, either you give it to me tomorrow or you're done. This is the nature of the book. So constitution also, even Ambedkar did not claim it's a perfect constitution, a very well done work, but not a perfect book. Having said that, there are some issues, but even if you go by the present-day constitution, it's very simple. A blind man can see what is Gyanvapi. Braille, you can see these are Hindu icons.
In India, there's a big chatter about what's happening at the Gyanvapi Mosque, where there are two different kinds of contestations. One by the Hindu petitioners who are saying that this was originally a temple which was raised by Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, and the other led by Asuddin Owaisi and many others who feel that because of the existence of the places of worship Act 1991, the status of the Gyanvapi mosques should stay as it is. I'm very curious to know, as somebody who looks closely at society, how you think this very contentious issue should be looked at and addressed.
Thousands of temples were razed to ground during invasions. Well, we couldn't protect them then. Now, talking about all those thousands of temples doesn't make sense because you cannot rewrite history in that sense. But at the same time, very iconic places. I think the communities should sit down together and work this out. This is not for the benefit of the nation, that everything we fight, whatever you say, I will oppose, whatever I say, you will oppose. This is not the way forward. Some very iconic places, I think for once we should sit down and say, okay, these 2-3 sites, let's settle this. The rest of it, don't raise it again. I think we should do that instead of going one at a time and keeping the controversy on, unnecessary enmity between communities. This is not necessary. I feel as a civilized society, for once we should sit down and say, okay, what are the issues? Can we settle it or not? We should sit down and settle it. There must be some give and take in this. About this particular thing, I am not conversant with the news, so I don't want to make a comment on that. But I feel that will be a way forward for both the communities, above all for the nation. It's important. I think we should stop thinking in terms of Hindu community and Muslim community. Right now, India is at a juncture where if we do the right things, we could be a significant nation in the world in terms of economy, in terms of political power, in every way. Nation could become a very significant force in the world. I don't think we should squander this, going on making everything into a big dispute. I know local politics, people will try to play for their advantage. I would beseech people and the news agencies and media houses not to make this controversial. Just make sure that we go towards a solution once for all, rather than raking it up every few years.